A gulf is a haven of life. It's surrounded on three sides by land, allowing it to collect an abundance of nutrients. It's also a haven for humans, and a breeding ground, nursery, habitat, and feeding ground for countless marine creatures. But every species that relies on the Gulf must have a unique survival strategy to earn its place here. The Beibu Gulf is the largest gulf in China. The minerals and nutrients brought by freshwater rivers give sustenance to a mysterious creature, the Chinese white dolphin. These mammals have always lived in shallow coastal waters, more than 25 meters deep. This dolphin is not yet fully grown. It follows its mother to the estuary of the Dongjiang River in Guangxi to join other family members. Chinese white dolphin cubs come to this feeding ground to learn hunting skills. The continental shelf in the Beibu Gulf has a thick layer of sediment that provides them with a stable source of food. The mother uses sonar to lock onto her prey and speeds towards it. The little white dolphin follows her closely. Their flexible bodies allow them to easily navigate the shallow waters. The Chinese white dolphin is known as the giant panda of the sea. There are only a few thousand of them left off the coast of China. China has over 18,000 kilometers of continental coastline. There are more than 100 bays, over 10 square kilometers in size along it. Fascinating examples of life thrive in the regions where humans and oceans interact. Xiaomeisha Bay in Shenzhen faces Hong Kong across the sea. Located in a subtropical zone, It's warm and moderately humid in May. A large alga, known as sargassum, grows in the shallow bay. The air bladders in their bodies allow them to float in the sea, creating a sargasso forest. This is a natural attraction for fish and for hunters. The shaggy frogfish is a master at hiding. Unfortunately, one of its eyes is injured. The shaggy frogfish is not a good swimmer and will spend its whole life in this bay. Capturing prey is a top priority. But it's no easy task. It has to focus and not be distracted by hunger. Its unique skin structure and color give it the appearance of a rock. Almost. Failed again. With only one eye, it's unable to accurately judge distance and direction. And luck is not on its side. An opportunity comes. A split-second strike. But it has bitten off more than it can chew. With dense little thorns and a swollen body, the pufferfish is not an ideal prey. Waiting for prey requires patience. But the hunter is already in trouble. The pufferfish's teeth are strong enough to crush coral. Nothing good will come out of spending more time here. Movement uses up energy. It must get results if it's to survive. The shaggy frogfish has one last trick in its bag. The bait on top of its head looks like food for fish. Getting the right timing is literally a matter of life and death. Every second counts. Success. The shaggy frogfish will spend its entire life in these waters. But other creatures only turn up at certain times. Most parts of the vast ocean are very different from gulfs. For giant predators, food is often hard to find. This young brutus whale is 10 meters long and weighs about 20 tons. To survive, she must dive deep down at night to hunt for food, then float up during the day to journey forward. Her objective is to reach the Beibu Gulf before spring. However, there is no guarantee that she will be awarded with a feast when she gets there. The shallow bays formed by coral reef communities are like hotels in a marine city. Countless marine creatures live here. Coral reef waters make up less than 3% of the ocean's total area, but are among the most biodiverse marine ecosystems. This female fire clownfish has just laid hundreds of eggs. During the breeding season, it's stimulated by hormones and quadruples in size in just a few days. It then transforms from a male into the only dominant female in the group and forms a steady family with another male. The fire clownfish's eggs are not protected by the sea anemone. For males, taking good care of the female eggs is the best way of finding favor with her. The clownfish couple shuttle between the sea anemones and the eggs, patiently cleaning up the floating dust. Every bit of space in this precious living environment will be fully used, from the bottom of the sea to the faraway coast. The mouth of the Beilu River in Guangxi is the southwestern starting point of China's continental coastline. The Chinese horseshoe crab is an ancient living fossil. Their size and appearance have evolved over the last 450 million years. As the tide recedes, a female horseshoe crab appears in the tidal creek. A pair of compound eyes on either side of its head gives it a view of the world that human eyes can never get. Adult horseshoe crabs spend their entire lives in the sea and only come back to shore for one reason: to breed. A primal instinct leads them back to the beach where they were born. The male horseshoe crab attaches to the female's abdomen. The female digs holes to ovulate, and the male then fertilizes the eggs. Soybean-sized eggs wait for the tide to hide them in the sand. In about 40 days, a new generation of horseshoe crabs will be born. The eggs are constantly growing and start to shed their membranes. Mangroves hold the nutrients, and sand grains contain the oxygen needed for the eggs to grow. This bay is the perfect breeding ground for Chinese horseshoe crabs. In the darkness, a new life struggles to break through its first barrier. It's only about 8 millimeters in diameter, about the size of an adult fingernail. Tens of thousands of new lives come into the world one by one. It will be 8 months before they grow long tails like their parents and transform from a trilobate larva into a true horseshoe crab. Over the next 15 years or so, these young horseshoe crabs will have to molt 18 times to reach sexual maturity. Less than 1 in 1,000 will return to the bay. Shrinking breeding grounds and overfishing by humans are hastening the disappearance of Chinese horseshoe crabs. After living on Earth for hundreds of millions of years, this ancient species is now in unprecedented danger. The environment in areas where the sea meets the land is complex and diverse. To survive here, some animals have had to come up with ingenious strategies. It's June in Beibu Bay. A few tenacious creatures are hiding in the shingle beach in the coastal salt field. 3 bird eggs in the rubble are disguised as rocks. These flies all over the salt field are food for the Kentish Plover. But the female is protecting the nest and doesn't dare to leave. The high temperatures pose a deadly threat to her unhatched eggs. The ground temperature is rising fast, and the male is busy feeding itself. As the sun sets, the female goes out on a final hunt before it gets dark. guard dog in the salt field smells the food. The Kentish Plover couple keep looking for their eggs. They refuse to leave. A new day begins. Because there are fewer female Kentish plovers than there are males, they have to mate with as many males as possible before the end of the breeding season to produce more offspring. The pool is not only used for bathing and foraging, but also for socializing. A new love silently blossoms. Female has found a mate. Together they search for a nesting spot. They must find the ideal pebbles to camouflage the nest. A new egg brings new hope. The cycle can start over again. The male is exhausted and starving, but will never leave. However, the outlook is grim. On average, only one egg out of 80 will successfully reach adulthood. The couple have to hold out for 30 days. This parent's patience finally pays off. There is no paradise in nature. And even in places where food is abundant, survival remains the top priority. A tropical coral community in the South China Sea. It's full of life and danger. The Mantis Shrimp has separate eyeballs and pupils. This allows it to be alert to potential threats from different directions. It's also a lethal fighter. Although it weighs less than 30 grams, it can throw a punch whose force is thousands of times its weight in 0.002 of a second. But it only uses its iron fist in self-defense and hunting. Building a proper shelter is more important than anything else. For the Mantis Shrimp, the most effective method of survival is hiding in crevices, a skill it has refined over 200 million years. The octopus and mantis shrimp are known as the architects of the ocean. It must always be ready to defend its territory. Larger territory often means a greater chance of survival. The Gulf has rich resources, but limited space. As a result, different species sometimes work together, and the same species often compete with each other. This is a goby. Its partner is cleaning up the room. Only its partner is not another fish, but a shrimp. The pistol shrimp can't see, but it can burrow and do the cleaning. In return, the goby provides protection and even food. The two form a long-term symbiotic relationship. Gobies have excellent eyesight. They are always cautious with other species. But much braver when it comes to their own kind. This small and lone goby desperately needs a burrow and a hard-working pistol shrimp. But both the burrow and the pistol shrimp are already taken. Should it give up or fight for them? The small goby has chosen the latter. Victory will require strength and courage. The big goby makes a mistake and loses its territory to the invader. But it hasn't given up just yet. It makes a stunning comeback. The small goby has to look for somewhere else to live. The Gulf is home to many fish, and also a paradise for many birds. This is a coastal mudflat in Beibu Bay in Hanggu District, Tianjin. It's one of the most important known wintering grounds for the Relic Gull. The Relic Gull was only identified by humans in 1971. There are fewer than 30,000 Relic Gulls left in the world, and nearly half of them live in China. Adult and subadult birds from far away gather here. They have to keep eating and accumulating nutrients until they finish acquiring their breeding plumage. Only then will they have the right to mate. The Relic Gull's journey of life begins from the Ordos Plateau, 1,000 kilometers away. Relic gulls have very strict requirements for nesting grounds. And this island, in the middle of the brackish wetland, meets them all. In April, thousands of relic gulls flock here. The nestling relic gull has been out of its shell for less than 5 hours. The mother has just returned from the feeding ground. The second chick is about to hatch. Relic gulls breed in colonies, but changes in the ecological environment mean the crowded mid-lake island may be facing a food shortage. The relic gulls here face an unknown fate. The chick emerges from its shell. They must grow rapidly within 50 days and learn to survive on their own before their parents migrate. Failure will result in certain death. Five days later, the relic gull brothers start walking. The food their father brings home is no longer enough to satisfy their appetites. And the adults also desperately need more food for the coming summer migration. A predator is on the hunt. It's got its eyes on the fledglings of its own species. The mother is out looking for food. He sees an opportunity. The elder brother has been targeted. Terrified, the younger brother runs towards the fledglings in the water. It's safe for now. But the parents return to find the nest empty. Fledgling cannot find its way home. The crisis is not over yet. Every day is a battle for survival. Without its parents, it doesn't stand a chance. This time, it was lucky. The power of the ocean is boundless. A A tropical cyclone in open waters thousands of miles away can lead to huge waves that crash into the Gulf. Typhoons are another force that directly impacts the coast. Seawater is swept ashore by strong winds, forming waves up to 20 meters high. The waves are powerful enough to destroy everything in their path until they hit the shore. The bay's unique geographical structure makes it a safe haven from such dangers. In the east of Zhejiang, several tidal pools are formed after the large tide. A strange creature finds itself trapped here after being buffeted by the wind and waves. It has 3 strong hearts and hundreds of suckers that allow it to creep up on its prey silently. The octopus must return to safe waters as soon as possible before it loses too much water. It enters the territory of an Asian paddle crab. The crab's best option is to run. It finds shelter in gaps between the rocks in the deep of the tidal pool. Octopuses have no bones and can move quickly between very narrow stone crevices. Even so, it will not act rashly. The rolling basalt hills divide the water and form a number of small harbors. Everything seems to be at peace. But there is more than one octopus here. They smell their prey and start to search every crevice between the rocks. It adopts an ambush strategy. The octopus's powerful muscles make it impossible for the Asian paddle crab to escape. It brings its food back to the nest to slowly enjoy. The octopus has jaws like a parrot's beak on the bottom of its body, which it can easily crush the crab's shell. Every day is full of unknown dangers. In order to survive, all species need to have intelligence and luck. The Brutus whale continues her foraging trip. But she is no longer alone. A male is trying to win her affection. But it's not going very well. On the other hand, at least she has a companion now. Early spring. The sardines arrive as expected, breeding in large schools in the Beibu Gulf. The Brutus whales can finally feast on the delicacy they've been searching for. The whales gulp down large amounts of fish and water, separating them through their baleen. The meal doesn't last long, so they must attack frequently. Few creatures in the ocean have a more efficient way of eating than the Brutus whale. They are the bay's most mysterious visitors. Summer is halfway through on the Ordos Plateau, 2,500 kilometers north of the Beibu Gulf. Due to the different food structure here, Relic Gull fledglings take longer to grow than other kinds of gulls. It's been more than 50 days. This young Relic Gull has begun to feed on its own. Its parents left a week ago. It now has to face life on its own, without any help. The gull has a wingspan of nearly 80 centimeters, and controlling them in the wind takes a lot of practice. Its first flight will take it far away from its birthplace. In order to survive, it must leave the shelter of the island. Its journey begins. It will fly all over Europe and Asia until it reaches adulthood. Then it will head to its distinct second home on the mudflats of the Bohai Bay in eastern China to spend the winter. This natural mudflat on the coast of Tianjin is less than 3 kilometers long and packed with nearly 10,000 relic gulls. They have come to accumulate energy to reproduce. The relic gulls hovering above this bay may be the last of its species in the world. From coral reefs to kelp forests, from bedrock harbors to sandy bays, from mangrove forests to salt fields, these highly biodiverse areas are the most endangered parts of the ocean. Human exploitation, possession, and emission are overwhelming them. Man and beast share these gulfs, which are the foundation for the survival of many species and the hope for the health of our oceans.